What's going on, movie fans, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing with you all my movie review of the brand new psychological thriller coming to Netflix on December 8th by the name of Leave the World Behind. Now, this movie is brought to us by the same creator that brought us the acclaimed hit show Mr. Robot, and stars the likes of Julia Roberts, Ethan Hawke, and my man Mahershala Ali. Great talent, pretty interesting premise, but the question is this any good? Is it worth checking out? Well, let's talk about it. Before we get into my spoiler-free thoughts, I want to start talking to you all in the comments. Let me know if you were looking forward to seeing this film, and also, with this being based on a novel, let me know if you read the book, and if so, what are the differences between the book and this movie? But more importantly, once you've seen the film, let's talk about it in the comments. Let me know your pros, your cons, your thoughts on the writing, the direction, the story, the performances, what worked, what didn't work. Let's talk about that in the comments below. So for those that aren't too familiar with this movie, which again is based on a novel, Leave the World Behind follows a family on vacation that is interrupted by two strangers bearing news of a mysterious blackout. Now, as the threat grows more imminent, both families must decide how best to survive the potential crisis, all while grappling with their own place in this crumbling world. Now, I'm going to be very vague. That's going to be as far or as much I talk about this plot, because again, I went into this pretty blind. I saw the poster, saw the talent, but that was all I knew about the film. So that's going to be the least amount I'm going to talk about the actual plot at hand. So getting into my thoughts, first and foremost, I mentioned that the writer and director of this film also created Mr. Robot, which admittedly I haven't seen, but I heard it's a great show. And now after watching this movie, I always had it on my watch list, but I definitely want to go back and watch it because I was very impressed by Sam Esmail, who was the writer and director of this film. I found his approach to be very appropriately stylized. There was some great camera work going on. I felt like I was a fly on the wall, and I loved like his perspective shots of how we feel about these characters and their minds and their thought process as they're going through this crisis in this crumbling world, as I mentioned in the synopsis there. So I'm very much a fan of what he brought to the direction and the style of this film, but I was also just as impressed with his work on how he built the tension. He did such a good job of executing the fearful situation so well, and I really enjoyed his writing in this film, especially his input on the social commentary in this film, on today's reliance on technology, and what would happen if communications were to shut down, such as the internet not being available with answers to what's going on in the situation. So I thought Sam did a really good job of playing into the fearfulness of, let's just say, if this was a scenario what this film may or may not play with, is what if there was a threat to America in particular, and seeing the characters react to that. He plays on that really well, but in particularly at the core of the film, the movie really focuses on human behavior and the lack of trust in humanity and expecting the worst out of people, and all that is portrayed so well. It's a combination of good writing, good directing, and great performances, which, let's talk about the performances here. As I mentioned, you have Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts, who are a married couple. They have their two kids that are going on this vacation. Meanwhile, you have Mahershala Ali and his daughter, who are the strangers that are approaching them on the vacation, and individually speaking, they were all great. But breaking them down, you have Mahershala Ali, who I'm such a big fan of. He plays someone who wants to do right by people and trust them, and sometimes he compromises the situation in this film because he's withholding information that he deems to be protecting people so they don't panic. He's very somewhat mysterious, but he has good intentions. I love Mahershala Ali. I thought he was fantastic in this film. You also have Ethan Hawke, who has a similar character trait to Mahershala Ali's character, where he wants to do right by people, but he does it in a kind of different way. So they were great. I love their scenes together, especially later on in the film. They share a scene together with also includes, I don't want to say cameo, but Kevin Bacon's also a part of this film, and I really like their dynamic, but also the different scene partners. I love the dynamic that we have with the different actors, especially when you look at someone like Julia Roberts, who plays the opposite of Mahershala Ali and Ethan Hawke. Like, she doesn't really trust people. She doesn't really think that people have the good intentions, and she also is paired so perfectly in this film with Myha'la, who is someone that's very similar to Julia Roberts, where she's someone that's very kind of on the fence, like, I don't think I can trust you, we should be looking out for ourselves. So individually, everyone was great, but then when you pair them together and you have these different kind of mismatches of scene partners, they just do such an excellent job in this film. And something else that was beneficial with these great performances was this movie is the definition to me of a slow burn. There's a lot of build up between scenes. There's a lot of conversation between characters, but thankfully everyone carried the more dialogue heavy scenes and it kept me really much engaged. So great performances, great written script. But final points I want to mention before we get into my criticisms, I will say I was a fan of this soundtrack. It's very modern. It's also some throwback old school R&B, which I'm a fan of. So I wasn't expecting to have such a great soundtrack. There's some really great needle drops in this film. And this isn't a negative or positive. This is just a comment that I want to make to you all. I want to make it very clear as far as what you're getting into with this movie, because like I had mentioned, this is a psychological thriller and there's a apocalyptic situation going on. Again, I was very vague on the plot, but again, I want you all to know that this is very much a more dramatic approach to this genre with more of the larger scale scope scenes. There are some moments where you see like what's going on certain areas. Like this reminded me of earlier this year, M. Night Shyamalan's You Had Knock at the Cabin. And I was a fan of that film, but I know some people weren't expecting it to be so like character driven, which this film definitely has more locations. Like we're mostly in a house in this movie, but there are more areas where you see other people, other events going down. But again, I just want to let you all know, don't expect like super action heavy scenes, larger scope scenes of what's going on in other places. Like it's very much a one location-ish type of approach, but it is very much character-driven, character study, character behavior, human behavior. So I just want to let y'all know what you're getting into, what to expect with the tone, the vibe, and the pacing. So getting into my criticisms, things that didn't entirely work for me, starting off with some of the mixed things, I will say there are moments that there were some loose threads that I wish were elaborated on more and had more of a payoff, but also when it comes to the ending, it's very ambiguous in a sense, which I like that sometimes, but I wish there was a better of a button on how they ended things, which we'll talk about the ending without spoiling anything here in a second. But runtime, this is about 2 hours and 20 minutes. Again, I was engaged. I was never bored. I thought the pacing was good for the most part, but there's some moments in the second half where I kind of felt that runtime. Again, that's kind of more in my mixed category. Things that I do think are criticisms with the film. There's this mysterious nature to the film that does feel familiar. Like again, without giving too much away on this apocalyptic situation, I've seen this type of mysterious what's going on with the on other movies, other shows, so that was kind of familiar at points. And as I talk about the performances, I mentioned how Ethan Hawke and Julia Roberts have kids. Nothing against the kids and their performances, but more particularly how the kids were written to me was very generic, very stereotypical to like Gen Z. They weren't really fleshed out. They were just like stereotypes of what we assume Gen Z would be, right? So because they were just very much like archetypes of character versus like actually having a personality. And the last thing that comes to mind is with our characters being wealthy, to me, it kind of limited the potential of the reaction of the situation that's going on at hand. Like there are different perspectives, but it's not as a variety of perspectives that I wish we would have gotten. Like I wish that there's moments where our characters interact with the less wealthy in this film, and those scenes were very interesting to see how they were reacting to what's going on. So I just wish that more of a variety of what's going on, because again, it's very much a one-sided perspective of what was going on. So that's my mixed bag. Those are my criticisms. Before I give you all my overall thoughts, give you my score, let you know if it's worth checking out, I want to take the time to thank you all for making it to this point in the video. If you haven't already, consider hitting the like button, sharing this video, but also sharing your thoughts in the comments, and also consider subscribing to the channel. Overall, Leave the World Behind is a peculiar apocalyptic psychological thriller that relies on excellent direction and exceptional performances. Although the mystery of what is happening felt familiar, the human behavior elements were very compelling. Although this might not appeal to everyone, I found this to be a very enjoyable film. And I will say, P.S. at the end of this, if you are a fan of a particular show, the end credit in the last scene in this movie will be one of the best that you've seen this year, if you're a big fan of the show. And it's also, even if you're not a fan of the show that they allude to, there is a great payoff that I very much enjoyed. So with all that being said, I'm going to give Leave the World Behind a 3.5 out of 5. And I recommend you all give this a watch on Netflix. And when you do, let me know your thoughts. Again, what worked, what didn't work, your thoughts on the tone, the themes, the commentary, the performances, the direction. Let's have those conversations in the comments below. Thank you again for watching today's spoiler-free review. A lot of reviews are coming up soon. I am a critic, so this is the time of the year. It's the best time of the year for movie fans where we get all those kind of Oscar-heavy films. So I'm going to have a playlist right here where you can check out all of my recent reviews. And also you can check out this video, which is my most recent review. You all are awesome. Hope you're staying safe, and I'll catch you all on the next video.